Okay, we're going to test the sound briefly to make sure you guys can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation by sharing the screen. There we are. Okay. Hello. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having problems with that headset, so I want to make sure you're able to hear me, so I'll just do it without the headset. Okay, so this week we're starting week 2, and I just wanted to put up some reminders on the screen today because there are some terms when we have some people who get a little bit confused, so I just want to lay out a few points to help you guys with trying to figure out when to contact the professor and other options that you can take before contacting the professor. The first one is read the announcements. The announcements are updated for the entire class at least once or twice per week. If I notice that there's something missing from the syllabus, or if I have more than one student send me a question, I will go ahead and respond to that question in the announcements, because usually if more than one person has the question, several people in the class have that question. Review the course calendar. The calendar feature on Canvas shows you all of the deadlines and all of the meetings. Now, I have added a couple of things to the calendar so that you're reminded that your initial post is due on Wednesday and that your final post is due on Sunday. That doesn't automatically happen at St. Thomas because it's not actually 2 separate assignments. So I post that initial discussion board as a calendar event just so that you can see it. So reference that course calendar as often as you can. Don't forget to check your St. Thomas email. If there are reminders or messages that come from the university, they will come through your STU account. And also please know that if you email me through the Canvas application, I will not get that message immediately. It does not come directly to my phone. I only get those messages a couple of times per day. But if you want to get in touch with me immediately, the best way to do that is to email me through the tsands@stu.edu email. Make sure you have reviewed the syllabus and the website sources from St. Thomas. St. Thomas has offered several APA formatting help tools. There's even some grammar help tools on those sites as well. So take advantage of those items that are offered for all of our students. Consult all resources provided. Watch your Zoom meeting if you haven't already. Refer back to the Zoom PowerPoint. The Zoom PowerPoint has proven itself to be helpful to my students. Well, I've been doing this class 3 years now. So every 5 weeks for 3 years I've been teaching this course. So I've had quite a bit of success with the feedback on the Zoom meetings. Double check the instructions. Sometimes if you only look at the rubric or you only look at the instructions, you miss something. The rubrics are generic to St. Thomas University. They're not specific to our particular course, but the instructions are particular to our course. Use the templates or the exemplars that I provide for you. I try to do that for every single assignment so that you can see what this looks like when it's completed. A lot of people prefer to see something and use it as a model. So I have created templates and exemplars for basically every assignment in this course and all of the courses that I teach. Review your feedback on the discussion board and SpeedGrader. This is something that people tend to look over. I reply to the discussion board at least once or twice during the week to give you what is called value-added feedback. Value-added feedback challenges you, clarifies a point, asks a follow-up question, and is part of the learning experience at St. Thomas. We are, as instructors, are required to give you value-added feedback within the discussion board. Sometimes it will be addressed to the entire class, sometimes it will be addressed to the individual. But I try really hard to make sure the individual feedback is in the comments on SpeedGrader where the grades are posted, because I don't want to embarrass anybody and make a comment, go back and check your grammar, or check your APA format, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your effort at the same time. So before you contact me, review your information, make sure you're following all the directions. Also, make sure you're calm. If you send an email when you're upset or stressed out, sometimes the message that is communicated is not quite respectful. I haven't had that problem in this term, but I can't say that I've never had that problem. Recently, we have had issues with student communication, and the dean has become involved at St. Thomas, so we certainly don't want that. Address the professor with professionalism and respect. It's just a norm to reference me as Professor Sands or Dr. Sands. I personally don't have any particular feelings about that title. In my day job, if someone calls me Miss Sands or Tracy, it really does not bother me. But for the culture of the university, particularly in graduate school, that is the norm. Also, consider the time of day and reasonable response time. I am usually online until 10:30 or 11 Eastern time each night. When I wake up in the morning between 5:30 and 6, I always check my St. Thomas messages. I always check the inbox on Canvas, and I take a look to see if any assignments have been submitted or if any comments on the assignments have been submitted. But please know that if you're outside those windows, it could be a few hours before you hear from me. Now, I do have a reputation for very quick feedback because I'm online most of the day, but I do have a full-time job during the day in the public school system, and I also teach 3 courses at the community college at 7 a.m. and at 6 o'clock at night, 1 day a week. So I am involved with my students a lot, but I have to be available online a lot in order to meet everybody's needs. So just know that I'll get back with you as soon as I can. If you want the quick response, email to tsands@stu.edu, and should get back with you most of the time within an hour. The other thing is avoid making demands or assigning blame. If you have a late assignment or you have an emergency situation, the best approach with a professor, not just me, but with any professor, is to say, hey, I'm really sorry I missed this deadline. Something came up, a family emergency, or, I just got caught up with my job and there was nothing I could do about it. I would appreciate it if you would consider accepting this assignment late rather than saying, I'm posting this 2 days late. Instead of 10 sources, I'm going to give you 5 sources, and whether or not you score it, I'm going to submit it. So it's all about that professional courtesy and respect, mutual respect. I also suggest that you review and edit your email before sending. I don't know how many times in my professional life I wish I had waited about 10 minutes before I sent a response, and I try, especially if I have my iPhone with me when I respond to you, I try not to just send a 1-sentence response because sometimes it comes across as a little bit unfriendly when I'm just trying to get you the information and continue with what I'm doing or allow you to continue. So sometimes I have to go back and put a greeting in there. I hope you're feeling okay. I understand your situation. And it's not because I don't care, because I do, but in my mind, you just want an answer. And so I have to work on time to time making sure I'm not cutting you short. But just know that I have about as much time as you do for the class, maybe even less. And so I want to get your response as soon as I can. I don't mean to be offensive, but I have to regularly review and edit my emails before sending. And also wait until you've received a response to reply again. I've had students send me an email at 10:58, and if they don't get a reply from me, they send me another email at 11:15, 11:20, 11:30, and honestly, I respond as soon as I possibly can. You're the first people I think about when I wake up in the morning. I don't think about my Roane County Schools people. I don't think about my Roane State Community College people. I think about my St. Thomas people. So you're the first people that I try to respond to in the morning, and you're the last people I try to respond to before I go to bed. So again, check your announcements daily. Our deadlines for the discussion board initial post, the St. Thomas deadlines are Wednesday night by 11:59, but because I have so many faithful people coming to these meetings, I give you until Thursday at 11:59 to do your initial post, because I want you to use these Zoom meetings to improve your work and to get the clarification that you need. Written assignments are due Saturdays by 11:59, and discussion board replies are due Sunday by 11:59. There should be 2 of those each week, except for week 5. Everything is due on Saturday night. So I want to go back to this samples of APA citations and references, and I won't spend a lot of time here because you guys are doing a great job with your journal articles and your referencing. But one thing I want to remind you is that references is the title. It's not bibliography, it's not works cited, and it's not in bold. And then you have the author's last name, comma, first initial, the date in parentheses, and you guys did a wonderful job of making sure you only capitalize the first word. I mean, I was so happy that I emailed my supervisor this week. I had the best response this week of any class I've ever had. So make sure, even if you're using a journal that's from a website, that you still name the journal. And if the journal has pages, you reference the pages. And then the one thing that's very confusing, and this is what I call an upside down indent, a hanging indent. And if you're using Microsoft Word, you may have to hit enter on line 2 before it will let you tab over. The other thing is if you use Google Docs, you will have to download your document as a Word document before you submit it to Canvas in order for it to keep with the formatting. And Office 365 online should be a free resource to all of our students. So if you don't have that, email Ariel Crematot, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I always call her by first name, and see how you can get that Office 365 so that we can keep everything in Microsoft Word. I've tried everything under the sun because I use Google Classroom and Google Docs in my daytime job, and the best thing to do is open up the template, even if you're using Google Docs, and download it as a Word document. That saves your formatting. So there are other sources, again, journal, article, research, publication, and book, and it is difficult to put the title of a book without all of the capital letters. That was painful for me, especially because I'm an English teacher and I'm an MLA format kind of person by nature, and it hurts me to see that format. So I live in those two different worlds. An online journal article, a book with an edition. So use these resources. And then, of course, I mentioned the sources with no author last week. Now, this week we're talking about qualitative versus quantitative research. And what I've done here is I've screenshot a format from simplypsychology.org, which actually is a pretty good resource. So what I have done is I've put the link inside our document. And when you go to, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. When you go to Simply Psychology, it pulls it up. And I personally do very well with information that's not in paragraph format. I do better when I have columns and sections and boxes and visuals. So this is an exceptionally easy communication of the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research. Qualitative is about narrative, informant's perspective. We use research questions rather than hypothesis, and the responses from your participants, their words, their actions, their behaviors are what guide the study. The quantitative format, you have clear-cut questions and expected answers, such as multiple choice or yes, no, and you are measuring how many people went one way, how many people went another way. It's a fixed and measurable mathematical statistical reality. Now, one of the things that you have to remember as you design this study that you're not actually going to perform, you're only designing a study, is just because you're not a math person doesn't mean you should choose qualitative. But usually people who are not math-minded lean towards a study that's qualitative to avoid the math. But qualitative studies tend to be much more lengthy with data that is very unpredictable because you really don't know where it's going to take you. For example, if you were writing a dissertation, a qualitative dissertation would take you anywhere from 300 pages to 400 pages, whereas a quantitative would be 150 to 200 pages, just because you're actually using lots and lots of narrative format and qualitative. So the qualitative research is empirical research where the data are not numbers. That's the most simple explanation I've seen. Qualitative researchers use a variety of methods to develop deep understandings, and this is important here. Diary accounts, open-ended questionnaires, not surveys, open-ended questionnaires, documents actual student work or samples, participant observation, where you actually watch and you write or record everything that's being done. Hold on just one second. Sorry about that. My husband's cooking dinner and I could hear the chopping and it was distracting. So I don't want to stop him if this is what he wants to do. So participant observation and ethnography. And ethnography is where you do a study of a large group of people and you interview and observe and you collect open-ended data and you get a broad study. So the qualitative data analysis, and when it says endlessly creative and interpretive, that is very, very true, because you have to triangulate that data. You can't use math to determine whether or not that data is accurate. So you ask questions and you get that feedback. That's one corner of the triangle. You observe and you get that feedback. That's another form of the triangle. And then the third response might be you ask a different participant, for example, teachers and students, and you get open-ended responses. Then from those responses, you find how those are common, and those threads become your themes in your study. And I take a little bit more time to explain qualitative because quantitative is very cut and dried. You collect the information, you rank it, you categorize it, and then you use mathematical analysis to test whether or not your results are credible. So that is where you determine here, qualitative versus quantitative. You pull one of your studies that you've looked at this week and you tell us this study is qualitative or this study is quantitative, and it fits this study because, for example, if we're talking about achievement, we obviously want to use quantitative data because achievement scores come in numbers and in scales. So that's a little hint into this week's assignment. So there is also a really good site called skillsyouneed.com, and usually I don't use .com sources, but because this source is research-based and has excellent references, I do allow this source. But it's this states a quantitative versus qualitative in another way, and they give you examples, and examples help people put things into their mind and into the memory. So just so that you know, this explanation provides you with examples, and I think it's equally as helpful, but and you may use either one of these sites as a resource in your writing, but some people like one type and some people prefer another type, so I try to meet those individual needs. So when you review the literature, the first thing you're going to do is identify a topic or a problem area. And I went over this briefly last week. For example, my broad area for study might be teacher-student relationships. Then I examine professional journal articles. And we went through last week on how to locate professional journal articles. There are a lot of really good resources out there for us to use in day-to-day work. However, for the purposes of this class, you must use journal articles from empirical research or published books that are research-based. So then you identify a research question, which is a question to answer, a hypothesis or a purpose, phenomenon to explain, or a hypothesis to test. If you are doing quantitative, you are going to have a hypothesis. If you are doing qualitative, your research question is as far as you go. But even for quantitative, you have a research question and then you develop it into a hypothesis. For example, how are relationships between teachers and students established? Research question, that's perfectly fine for a qualitative study. But if I want to create a hypothesis, I have to focus a little bit differently. Do teacher-student relationships impact student achievement? That is a research question also. But the hypothesis in that would be teacher-student relationships improve student achievement. That would be my hypothesis. So the empirical research is based on observations. We observe to establish the need for the study. Who do we observe? There's a population being observed. How do we observe? You select certain measures to gather the information. So depending on what you're looking for, you adjust what actions or measures that you take. When do we observe? Of course, you're going to observe when the behavior is taking place or most likely to take place. You certainly would not observe third graders at 7 o'clock at night if you're wanting to know how well they perform in heterogeneous reading groups. You need to be there during the heterogeneous reading groups and observing at that time. So you have your topic of general study. For example, ability grouping and reading instruction would be a general topic. The research question is a specific focus. How does leveling for reading instruction impact students' reading ability? So when you do the discussion board, you're going to provide a comparison of qualitative and quantitative research. This does not mean that you have to get 2 articles, 1 qualitative and 1 quantitative. It means you're going to do the research, such as go to the sites that I provided, and explain to me the differences of qualitative and quantitative research. And you're also going to talk about the measures and data analysis tools for each. Those are on the websites. They're very different. You're going to refer to 1 article, tell me whether or not it was a qualitative or a quantitative study, and why that method worked for that study. Then the third step is, how has examining and evaluating the study prepared you to design your own? How is it helping you focus your research question? What hypotheses are you developing in your own mind? What type of analysis works with your ideas? So in the discussion board, the rubric is still the same. Remember that we must use research in our responses. We must have a reference for our initial post, and our responses must integrate multiple perspectives and reflection. So one of the things that you will do when you go to the research proposal guide is you will see on this page where it says literature review, it says this is a description of the entire research proposal. Please know that this particular description is not what you're using for the literature preview. It's a little bit counterintuitive. I'm working with the curriculum writer to clear it up. But if you click here and then you go to the research proposal guide, it's going to list everything. Well, we made a quick change, and it's a little bit more clear, but the only part you're doing this week is the preview of the literature, section 1. So this is where you review the literature based on your research question or based on your topic of study, and you focus on relevant articles. Now, this research preview only requires 5 articles. Usually in a research review or a literature review for a huge proposal or a dissertation, you probably have about 20, 25, 30. I actually had 159 references on my last literature review in the last writing that I did. So, but this is to get your feet wet. This is to help you with formatting as well as the content. Several terms ago, the preview of the literature was the first assignment, and there was no annotated bibliography. And I was like, wait, we can't learn all of that at one time. So the typical example of the literature preview I have posted on announcements. So there is a PDF document of the literature preview, and there is a Word document. If you upload the Word document using Google Docs, make sure you download it as a Word document or the formatting will not follow. So this title page has the running head and page 1, center double space, the title of the document, not in all caps, which we've been through this. And then starting on the second page, this template is already set up. So take advantage of that because it's complicated formatting in the pages. And I will just tell you, I cheated. This is not actually a header. This is actually the first line of the paper, but don't tell anybody. It just makes it easier to format. And this is an actual literature review. Now look here, the first title of the paper is not bold. That can be confusing. Then the student has looked at the literature and teased out themes from the literature. And one of the themes that she came across was visual memory and spelling approach, because she was comparing spelling teaching methods. Then her next main heading is orthographic spelling approach. Then her next main heading is phonological spelling approach. So in your literature review, because it is so short in comparison, it's only about 3 pages long, all of your main headings will be centered and bold. It gets a little bit more complicated with the proposal, but follow this format. See how the end of the paragraph and the next heading and the next paragraph indentation are all just simply double spaced. I want to show you a quick little trick. You go to Format Paragraph, and when you see line spacing double, that's what you need, but there's one more thing you need to do. You have to click on Do Not Add Space Between Paragraphs, and you have to make sure the before spacing is 0 and the after spacing is 0, or it will spread out your paragraphs. And then you do that at the very beginning, or you highlight everything at the end and do it that way. But this is where you get that nice, clean transition from paragraph to heading to paragraph, and it looks really, really nice. Of course, I'm an English teacher. I think it looks nice, right? So, and as it goes on, she has 6 pages here. So she's got 4 pages of text, a title page, and a reference page. The references, again, not bold, and you've got a clean double space all the way around. Now, let me show you another trick. One thing you can do with your references, so let's say that you're setting up your paper and you don't have any pages in between. So let me just delete this many pages, okay? And my references are like there, and it's a problem, right? Because you just push them along as you go. If you insert a break, which is called a page break, it pushes references to the top of the next blank page no matter how much you write. So you never have to worry about enter. Whoops, I printed it out and it's thrown off. So learn those functions of your word processor because they save you tremendous, tremendous amounts of time. So that is the review basically of the sample document. So then the rubric for this assignment is actually pretty simple. Did you follow instructions? Did you analyze these sources? Did you go beyond the obvious? Did you use sophisticated sentences effectively? Did you observe the conventions, which means APA format, grammar, comma use? Makes few mechanical errors. You can make a few errors and still get maximum points on this assignment, and that's okay. But if your writing is not understandable, or there are many comma splices or few sentences, then that's going to create problems with how you're communicating your topic. Again, this is a link to St. Thomas's library that's in the PowerPoint. Again, we went through that. One of the things I want to show you is if you scroll down where it says how to, you can click on cite sources, and there are 100 million trillion different links on how to use APA style. Of course, modern language is there, and Chicago Turabian is there, but there are lots of sources if you just need to see it explained a different way. This video tutorial by Larry Treadwell, he is actually one of the media specialists on campus at St. Thomas, and he provided this training to students on campus, and I emailed him and I said, hey, don't forget our online people. Can you video this so that we too have access? And it is a good training. So the resources that we have through St. Thomas are strong resources. Again, APA formatting, which is just what I did. And that is really the end of what I have in the PowerPoint and the presentation. That really is not to keep you focused, it's to keep me focused, because I tend to be all over the place. So are there any questions about this week, anything in general that I can help you with?
Dr. Sands, I have a question.
Okay.
As far as the paper goes, do we use the sources we already have, or can we explore new sources?
In a perfect world, you would have those 10 sources in your annotated bibliography, and you would choose 5 of those. But if you're doing a study that's more in depth, you're going to narrow that focus, and you're going to want something that's more specific. And then you're going to sort of, want to sink your teeth into something specific to solving that research problem. So I don't do a comparison. When I see your literature review, I don't compare it to the annotated bibliography. But in a perfect world, yes, that would all be 5 of those 10. And you may find also that you need more than 5 resources to really get a good feel for your topic.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. And secondly, the thing that I'm going to post tonight, again, it's not going to, when I post it on the discussion board, the format doesn't come through exactly, but I should just post it as I wrote it, right?
Right. Post it as you wrote it. Copy and paste it into that box. I'm not really looking for indentions on your APA reference. I'm looking for the parentheses and the commas and the abbreviations, and especially the capitalization of the title, because that's the hardest thing to do to break away from MLA formatting for most people. So yeah.
It's tough for me, I gotta tell you. It went kicking and screaming, but I did it.
I know. And see, I teach undergraduate English classes. So on Tuesdays and Thursday morning, I'm all MLA. And then with you guys, I'm all APA. And so it's like, I literally have to take a look and go, where am I? And sort of get myself back into it. So yeah, I'm living your world.
I have a question, Dr. Sands.
Okay.
I'm going to piggyback off of what she said in terms of if I decide to go in a slightly different direction, you're saying I can pick up other sources?
You can start over.
Use that, and that's fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
And really, the annotated bibliography is an assignment I created to get you accustomed to using journals and the library and APA format. But as you start to really think about what you care about and what you want to study, you're going to go off in a specific direction. So it's natural to want to do that. I would say this, after you finish your literature review, I probably wouldn't change topics, because in your final proposal, you would have to rewrite the literature review. Because see, literature review is a chunk of the proposal, and everything we do after that all goes into the proposal at the end.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
So it's almost like a business proposal that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's mathematically the same as far as the function of all the pieces and how they go together and they lead up to something. So you got to do background research to lay the foundation, the reason that you need to do what you want to do. So yes.
Okay. All right.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Are the articles that we're using for the discussion and the assignment the same?
They can be, but they don't have to be. Like if you post an article and it was from your annotated bibliography, qualitative versus quantitative, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to compare that to your literature review.
Okay.
So it can be completely random, totally different, as long as it's in the field of education. I just want you to understand and be able to verbalize the difference in qualitative and quantitative, the measures for each, the reasons for each, and basically where is this taking you as far as what you may want to do in your study.
Okay, and the second question, even though it's posted Wednesday due date, you said it's...
I extended to Thursday because tonight really smart people are getting online and watching this video if they're not participating, because we have so many sources. And if you guys just trust me and you get that textbook out there, read the instructions closely and listen to what I'm telling you, I will give you everything you need in this class.
Thank you.
That's why we've got until Thursday at midnight, because it's not fair for you to get off this meeting and only have 3 hours or 4 hours to pull it together. So I've been a student too, and there are other things that we have to do. So
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? We're running out of time. I think we've got a couple more minutes.
I do have one quick one.
Okay.
It's easy for me to see where quantitative research is just going to be that. But the qualitative piece could have a little bit of quantitative, no, none.
Please don't
Okay.
do that. Let me tell you, there's a such thing as mixed methods research. And if you mix quantitative and qualitative, you have two complete studies put together, not a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So make your decision. Do I care what the participants
That's good to
feel?
know.
Do I care about how the participants act, qualitative, or do I care about the achievement results, the graduation rate, higher
Right.
education? Do I care about
The data.
Yes, exactly. So you got to, the sooner you can make that decision, the better off you're going to be through this process. Because if you flip back and forth and it's not complete in the end, you're going to see a C. So just know for this proposal, you're going to have a narrow focus, one method.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right.
All right. Anything else?
Okay.
Okay, please do email me at tsands@stu.edu. If you need anything, that's the quickest way to get in touch with me. I will respond, and I'll probably will respond very quickly and be straight to the point. It's not personal. It's just I am ADHD, but I have a lot of things going on just like you all do. And so I think, to me, the answer is more important than whether or not I asked you how your day was. Is that true?
Right.
I do care about how your day was, but I think getting you the answer is the most important thing. So anything else?
So you're much more quantitative than qualitative, huh?
Oh, honey, I am qualitative. I am qualitative all the way. I am not quantitative. But I will tell you, I know that results matter, and
Right.
I would rather someone tell me straight up, this is the way it is, thank you very much, than to go around and hint.
Right.
I hope you understand. One thing I will do is I will tell you straight up what I think. And so I think answers are important in this process because time is limited. So no, I'm not quantitative. I'm qualitative. But I do appreciate the data that comes from real qualitative research. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. And I will hear from you this week, I hope. Don't be afraid to send questions. All right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Good night. Good night, everybody.